When it comes to investing, big money usually moves the market, and the biggest money is usually within a hedge fund. You could think of a hedge fund as a pool of investments of some of the most wealthy investors that are out there today. These hedge funds are known for taking a more aggressive approach at times as they try to achieve a specified return. Many hedge funds have investment minimums, such as being able to invest at least $10 million in the market. These are huge investors, also known as the smart money, because big money is what really moves the market. And in today's video, we're going to take a look at the 5 top individual positions that were bought by hedge funds during the most recent quarter. And we're going to take a look at some of the most popular hedge funds, their buys and sells during the most recent quarter as well. One of those being from Warren Buffett. So make sure you stay tuned throughout the entirety of today's video. And before we get rolling, make sure you smash that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel as I really appreciate it. And let's get going. Hey everyone, Mark Rusin here, back for another video. As always, I'm a CPA and not a financial advisor, so please do not take this as financial advice. And before we begin, let me thank today's video sponsor, which is The Motley Fool. The Motley Fool has a ton of great resources and products available for investors of all different levels. And right now, you can go to fool.com/Mark to sign up for their 10 best stocks to buy right now. All right, let's get back to our video where I already explained what a hedge fund is, but how can you follow hedge funds? Because after all, they are the smart money. Well, you can do this by following their 13F filings. And hedge funds are required to report 13F filings, which show all of their stock buys and sells during the most recent quarter. The most recent quarter was on September 30th, but they have 45 days to make this filing public. So given that they have these 45 days, the stocks that they may have purchased in the most recent quarter, they may no longer have in their portfolio, and you won't know until the next 13F filing comes out. So make sure you take these filings and these top stock buys with a grain of salt. So with that being said, now we're going to take a look at 5 of the most purchased individual stocks that were bought by hedge funds in the most recent quarter, beginning with the 5th most purchased, and we're going to work our way down throughout the video. So beginning with the 5th most purchased individual stock, it was Meta Platforms, stock ticker META. Meta Platforms has seen a resurgent year here in 2023 after a lackluster 2022, and this has been in the face of slowing digital advertising. CEO Mark Zuckerberg has coined this year the year of efficiency, and investors have applauded him so far. Shares of Meta currently have a market cap of $861 billion, and the stock is up a staggering 170% in 2023 alone. In the latest quarter, $25.2 billion worth of Meta shares have been purchased by hedge funds alone, with the 3 largest purchases coming from Bank of America, who purchased $1.53 billion worth of Meta shares, Fidelity purchased $1.47 billion, and JP Morgan Chase purchased $1.28 billion worth of Meta in Q3. Shares of Meta currently trade at a forward price-to-earnings multiple of 19.1 times, compared to a 5-year historical average of 22.9 times, still offering value despite the big move we have seen in 2023. The 4th most purchased individual stock during Q3 by hedge funds was Apple, stock ticker AAPL. Apple is the most valuable company here in the US with a current market cap of $2.9 trillion, and the stock is up a staggering 51% on the year. Not comparable to that of Meta, but still an amazing year. I recently published a video that looked at 3 of the best stocks to buy right now and 1 stock to sell. And that one may have been Apple. I'll leave a link to that video up top for you to check out after the conclusion of this one. During the most recent quarter, hedge funds bought $30.3 billion worth of Apple shares, with the 3 largest purchases coming from Pictet Asset Management Holding, who purchased $1.67 billion worth of shares of Apple. Circle Wealth Management purchased $1.64, and JP Morgan Private Wealth Advisors purchased $1.55 billion worth of Apple in Q3. Shares of Apple currently trade at a forward price-to-earnings multiple of 29 times, compared to their 3-year historical average of 25.3 times. The 3rd most purchased individual stock by hedge fund managers was KVUE, stock ticker KVUE. Some of you may not be familiar with KVUE, as they went public in Q2 of 2023, and they were spun off from Johnson & Johnson. This is Johnson & Johnson's old consumer health segment, who spun off that segment, and then that became KVUE. The consumer health segment has many popular brands such as Band-Aid, Listerine, Tylenol, Motrin, and the list goes on. KVUE currently has a market cap of $38 billion, but shares are down nearly 30% since going public a few months back. In the latest quarter, $33.8 billion worth of KVUE shares have been purchased by hedge funds, with the largest three purchases coming from the Vanguard Group, who purchased $3.41 billion worth of KVUE, BlackRock purchased $2.12 billion, and Fidelity purchased $1.76 billion worth of KVUE in Q3. Shares of KVUE currently trade at a forward price-to-earnings multiple of just 15.5 times. The second most purchased individual stock by hedge funds in Q3 was Amazon, stock ticker AMZN. Now, many of you are already familiar with Amazon as they continue to grow their business, and they have a lot of irons in the fire. They are seemingly involved in many different industries, from e-commerce to cloud to groceries, and now even healthcare. The company currently has a market cap of $1.5 trillion, and the stock is up a staggering 70% on the year. In the latest quarter, $34.3 billion worth of Amazon shares have been scooped up by hedge funds, with the largest three purchases coming from the likes of the Vanguard Group, who purchased $4.12 billion worth of Amazon, JP Morgan Chase purchased $2.87 billion, and Fidelity purchased $2.79 billion worth of Amazon in Q3. Shares of Amazon currently trade at a forward price-to-earnings multiple of 41.2 times, compared to their 5-year historical average of 71 times. And they have a PEG ratio of 1.3 times, which means although you're paying a high multiple, you're getting great growth, and the value is there. And now we get to our most purchased individual stock by hedge fund managers in the third quarter, which was Microsoft Corporation, stock ticker MSFT. This should really come as no surprise, because if you look out over the past few weeks and months, Microsoft shares have hit an all-time high. They've only been going one direction, it seems like, and that's been higher and higher. The company currently has a market cap of $2.75 trillion, trailing only that of Apple here in the US, and shares are up 55% here in 2023. And since the last week of September, shares of Microsoft have climbed nearly 20%, which means the buying has likely not stopped since the end of Q3. During that third quarter, $39.5 billion worth of Microsoft shares have been purchased by hedge funds, with the three largest purchases coming from Fidelity, who purchased $1.89 billion worth of Microsoft. Pictet Asset Management Holding purchased $1.89 as well. JP Morgan Private Wealth Advisors purchased $1.5 billion worth of Microsoft shares in the third quarter. Shares of Microsoft currently trade at a forward price-to-earnings multiple of 33.1 times, compared to their 5-year historical average of 32.3 times. So now we've taken a look at 5 of the most purchased individual stocks made by hedge funds during the third quarter. Now let's take a look at a few of the most popular hedge funds out there to see what they've been buying and selling during that third quarter. Let's begin with the great Warren Buffett, who has Berkshire Hathaway, who operates like a hedge fund. As you can see here, the Berkshire Hathaway portfolio has over $300 billion in assets under management, and they have 45 total holdings. In totality, you could see that the largest holding is Apple, which he made no change to the shares during the most recent quarter. That is followed by Bank of America, American Express, Coca-Cola, and Chevron are the top 5 positions. If we click on change shares here, we could see any of the stock buys during the most recent quarter, which was Occidental Petroleum, where they added 3.9 million shares, just a 1% change though. However, they did make some sells, selling completely out of the positions such as UPS, Procter & Gamble, Mondelez, Johnson & Johnson, General Motors, Activision Blizzard. All of those positions have been completely wiped out for Berkshire Hathaway. Next, let's take a look at Bill Ackman and his Pershing Square Capital portfolio, which only has 8 holdings, as you can see here. So he likes to keep things pretty simple, and assets under management are about $10.5 billion. The largest stock in the portfolio is Chipotle Mexican Group, followed by restaurant brands. However, as we could see some of the changes that were made, he doubled his position in shares of GOOGL, which is Alphabet. Alphabet has 2 different types, and he also has GOOG down here. So when we add those 2 together, we're looking at shares owned of nearly 15 million shares that equate to over 1.7 billion. So this is right there as the top position when you combine both of these shares of Alphabet. Other positions he made additions to was Hilton as well as Howard Hughes. He did decrease slightly his position in Lowe's company. Now let's take a look at David Tepper, whose hedge fund is Appaloosa. They have assets under management of a little bit more than $5 billion and a total holdings of 32. His top position is Meta Platforms, followed by Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, as well as Google. Taking a look at the top buys he made changes to during the quarter, you could see Microsoft on the list, Meta, as well as Caesars Entertainment, and some more Alphabet down there. Any sells did we see? He traded out of Marvell, iShares here, Constellation Energy, completely out of Broadcom, and completely out of Apple. Now, again, remember, these 13F filings were at the end of September 30th. So that doesn't go to say that maybe he has already repurchased shares of Apple. That's kind of that gray area when it comes to following these 13F filings. The fourth portfolio we're going to look at is Ken Griffin's Citadel Advisors, which has over $92 billion in assets under management and over 5,000, nearly 6,000 holdings, as you can see there. The top holdings in terms of portfolio value are Microsoft, Activision Blizzard, Boston Scientific, and the Spider S&P 500 ETF. Let's take a look at his top buys here. If we click on the change of shares here, we can see the top buys for Ken Griffin, which were Starbucks, Broadcom, Booking Holding as the top three there. Other notable buys, though, during the quarter, Home Depot, which he didn't have much of, Air Products, and look at this, he added to Apple as well. 3.4 million shares of Apple were added in the most recent quarter there for Ken Griffin and Citadel Advisors. Let's take a look to see if there were any sells during the quarter. And as we imagine, he sold out of the QQQ there. Not completely, but 66%. That's a big sell there. He sold his shares of Meta, dropping that by 55% nearly. Dropped at 40% of his Sherwin-Williams, 34% of T-Mobile, and 22% of FedEx. So a lot of different moves being done there during the quarter by Ken Griffin. And the fifth portfolio we're going to take a look at today is Daniel Loeb's Third Point Hedge Fund, which has $6.5 billion in assets under management with 39 holdings there. As we see, the top positions are PG&E, Microsoft, Danaher, and Amazon as the top four, followed by Bath & Body Works. That's an interesting one to see there. Let's see his top buys. As we hit change in shares here, we could see Option Care Health was the top buy there in terms of percentage. Uber he bought 1.4 million shares of Uber. He bought 700,000 shares of Microsoft, Jacob Solution, 445,000, and we could see down here 580,000 shares of Amazon, increasing his position by 14%. Let's take a look to see if we had any sells, and we did. Horizon Therapeutics he sold out of completely. Notable ones here, NVIDIA he sold out of completely. Micron he sold out of completely. Alibaba he dropped by 100% there. So some very notable buys and sells. Before we go, if you're new to investing or looking for a new platform, then definitely check out WeBull. Right now, they're giving away up to 20 free shares just for signing up and depositing any amount of money. Check out the link down in the description below. So if you're interested in wondering where am I getting this information from, I use a site called HedgeFollow. HedgeFollow.com is where you can go, and the 13F filings every quarter will be updated here. You can go to the SEC website and find all of that stuff, but this is going to be the most user-friendly to see what are the top buys and sells by value, what are their top positions so that you can look at in Warren Buffett's portfolio, in Daniel Loeb's, in Bill Ackman's portfolio. You can see a lot of information there. And this is way, if you do want to follow and see what the smart money is doing, you could track along right there at hedgefollow.com. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you haven't done so yet, make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified anytime we drop content. And with that being said, we'll see you in the next one. Take care.